Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, so a very good evening again to each and everyone, all the eminent speakers, our chief guest, all eminent speakers, experts, our members to this forum. And to begin with, I request Mr. Ravi Ahuja, co-chairman of the council, to please begin the proceedings. Mr. Ravi Ahuja, hope you have joined because I am not able to see you.
Ravi sir, please unmute yourself, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rajora Saab, for the brief and effective welcome address to all. And thank you for handing over the proceedings to me. I will moderate this session. While we wait for our chairman, Shri Pradeep Agarwal ji, to join us shortly, please allow me to start the session. We already have our respected panelists with us here. Very quickly, just to set the tone, the topic is very apt, and what comes to my mind on the topic is really, and please pardon me, firstly, my screen is not able to project my image, but I hope the audio is clear. Like I was mentioning, the topic of optimizing housing technologies and innovation, the way forward, is a very apt topic given the circumstances and the environment we are currently in. There's lots of learnings in the last 1 year due to these uncertain times. As a moderator, of course, I have the expert panelists who will share their thoughts, and I would rather have them cover. So I will just very briefly, just to set the tone, kind of just visit a few points which I feel maybe from our industry perspective, the innovation in construction technology is clearly required for us to be for these technologies to help us. A few of the innovations that we have seen in the last decade or so, and as we progress, we will see them evolve themselves, shape themselves in a manner that our industry will clearly benefit from it. Why India has taken time to adapt to these technologies is a challenging environment that we are in. I'm sure our expert panelists will cover. For example, one of the most transformational technologies which is now widely also known is the building information modeling, what we call BIM. And the BIM software and the building plans, which I understand are also sometimes now represented in the 3D models. I think one of the basic benefits of the BIM model is really to give accessible, to make these software and the building plans accessible to everyone and all the stakeholders. And clearly, in my view, may help our industry in boosting collaboration, enhancing communication, and also improving project management process. We have seen the advent of 3D printing. We believe that today in the construction area, it is now possible to print prefabricated sections or even to print entire buildings with 3D, although it may be a little expensive. But clearly, these technologies will help us in rapid prototyping. Also, creation of unique and one-off designs are possible with the 3D printing. And most importantly, do as much less is more with 3D printing, detailing. It leads to waste reduction and clearly saves the environment when the excess material does not go to landfill areas, etc. There are other areas which we've been hearing about, and the esteemed panelists can also put some comments on, maybe augmented reality and virtual reality, how we visualize the elements of the design and how they are improved in the understanding as to what is to be built and the detailing that goes into it. Also with AR, VR, there's the aspect of visibility. It provides visibility of spatial planning. We have heard terms of AI, artificial intelligence, IoT, and robotics. These are fast transforming what we call smart building technologies, and they will have far-reaching impact, is what I believe. On the practical side, if you were to ask me from the commercial side, while this is on housing technology, I don't think much has been achieved on the commercial spaces. If you allow me to talk about commercial, which I understand a bit more, the precast structures are generally more successful in the affordable housing segments and tried and tested. But again, from an India perspective, we have very few companies like Precast India or Katera who are doing these things. So we have seen the advent of low-cost affordable housing use such technologies, but it has not moved much into the commercial spaces. What it takes for us to move there, what regulations can help us, will be something which will be helpful for the audience to understand. The REITs I hear, real estate investment trusts, these are being gobbled. The A-grade office buildings have been invested by all or many of the institutions like Blackstone, Brookfield, etc. And there is a dearth of A-grade office space. Especially, I think construction technology can play an important role in bringing up in a rapid manner some of the A-grade construction of commercial spaces. And finally, I represent L&T Realty, where I work. We have just moved into a steel construction structure where all L&T group companies have moved in at Jogeshwari Vikhroli Link Road. Just on steel construction, I'm not an engineer, but what I understand is that worldwide steel as a construction is the most fastest. It beats me to understand then why in India this has not taken off like it has in some of the overseas markets. For example, even Japan has done wonders with steel construction. Is it due to lack of trained workers, or is it due to expensive material which steel is in India and cost playing a bad sport? We don't know. We can look at such things and some of the challenges that I spoke about, and equally to those challenges are opportunities, because in this fast changing environment, clearly technology is here to change the way India is building itself. So these are few thoughts that come to my mind about the topic. I would like to just check Pradeep ji if he is already here. Otherwise, we can move to the first speaker. Rajura Saab, is Pradeep ji here?
No, sir, not
I
yet.
think he's
Sir has
still
not
expected to come on. Okay, so we'll wait for him to come. In the meantime, please allow me to kickstart the sessions with our esteemed participants. Our next address, I would like to invite Dr. Sailesh Kumar Agarwal. Sailesh Kumar Agarwal ji is the Executive Director at BMTPC, and I would, sir, invite you for your address, please. Thank you.
Can you just make my presentation? Can you give me presentation right, Kaushal?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are giving.
Sir, we are just putting your presentation up.
I show my screen, okay? Yeah. You're sharing or I?
Sir, your screen is visible now. Your PPT is visible. Just make it
My
full
PPT
screen.
is visible now? My PPT is visible?
Yes, sir.
Is it visible? And you are able to see the movement of slides as well?
Sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and I welcome all the esteemed panelists and also all the participants in this very webinar on optimizing housing technologies and innovations, the way forward. I thought instead of talking, I will just make a presentation and I was carefully listening to Ravi, who's by L&T. The time has come when we have to, bring innovative emerging construction system into the sector, because whether you like it or not, construction sector is often blamed to be reticent in adopting innovations. Okay, and therefore the technologies which have been proven, time tested world over, here they are slowly coming up. So what we have done at Government of India level, we have been facilitating use of these innovative construction systems, as well as trying to facilitate. Government is playing a role of facilitator, and government has come forward and showcasing these good technologies, global best practices, transplanting them in India and making them available for the Indian construction sector. So I thought I will just collect that all information, and I represent BMTPC. We are under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and I am mandated to study, evaluate, certify these new construction systems and proliferate their uses in the construction sector. So, and I also took this opportunity because very seldom we talk to public sector, private sectors, real estate developers, and I just wanted to tell them that this is the set of technologies which have been shortlisted, verified, certified by Government of India, and at the same time we are making use of these technologies in in various projects. We are calling them lighthouse projects, demonstration housing projects, pilot projects, just to build confidence for wider advocacy and to adapt these technologies in the sector. Okay, with this, let me start. Let me just put the context in place. All of you will agree with me that India is rapidly urbanizing. The whole world is urbanizing, and India is not an exception. And this is just a statistics, but I would like you to draw. I would like to draw your attention on the rectangle which is on the left hand side, which was the statement made by in one of the conference in urbanization. Our honorable minister said this, and I just really wanted to tell you that India is going to be 50% urbanized by 2050, 40% by 2030. Means 590 million, 59 crore people will live in urban areas. And to cater to this growing population, India has to build 600 to 800 million square meter urban space every year. 600 to 800 million square meter urban space. And if you're not able to make out what this million square meter, 600 or 800, that means a new Chicago every year. Just think of it. Think of this. If we need to build a new Chicago every year till 2030, do we have raw materials? Do we have enough raw materials? Can we sustain that? There are a whole lot of things which I will be talking in this presentation. And also as a clarion call given by Honorable Prime Minister and the present Government of India, that India is fast, is one of the fastest growing economy, and we have to reach to the $5 trillion economy. And our sector, construction sector, and especially real estate developers, and these is going to play a paramount role if we want to take our economy to a higher level. So we need to be receptive, innovative, and at the same time sustainable. And what I suggest here is that this is the mantra by our ministry, that we have to adopt 3S approach, which is skill, scale, and speed. Friends, it's no longer that you can continue to prolong the completion of your project. Speed is going to be a key thing in years to come. So skill, scale, and speed. We need to bring new sets of skill. We need to expedite the construction. We need to deliver housing and infrastructure at a faster rate, and also think of scale. I just want to dwell on scale because most of the time we compare technologies from abroad, and we give the example of Singapore and other countries, but think of the scale here. And let me just tell you the kind of urban renewal taking place in India. Nowhere in the world this kind of urbanization or urban reconnaissance or urban renewal has taken place. Nobody has ever thought of this kind of urban renewal on this scale. So scale is again mammoth, magnanimous here in India. Now, because we are operationalizing this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, and we take a lot of pride in telling all of you that the SS demand when we started in 2016, was 11.2 million houses need to be constructed in various states in urban areas. And I must share with you that we have already achieved this. We have already sanctioned 11.2 million houses, and out of this, the 80 lakh houses or 8 million houses have already been grounded, and 4 million houses, around 5 million houses have been completed and given to the beneficiaries. So this is the scope. This is the status of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And let me now just tell you that if we are talking about such a scale, can we do it with brick and stick approach? I often call it, the kind of construction practices we have. This is, you build brick by brick, you put brick walls and start constructing, or you have a cast in situ RCC construction. So these are the this is called business as usual approach, but we just can't afford if we have to build at such a rate, if we have to deliver houses at such a faster rate. We just can't continue to build using load bearing or RCC infrastructure. Also, all of you will agree with me, just to put the context, I wanted to tell you that there is too much dependency on cement, aggregate and water, and all of you will agree with me. Earlier it was said that the next World War would be on water. Let me tell you, the next World War is going to be on sand. You just Google, just Google sand war, and you will find beautiful films on Google on sand wars. You just can't imagine that sand is going to be scarce in times to come. In our times, sand was something which is a natural thing and which is available everywhere. And all of you know now sand is scarce. Also, during COVID time, all of us have seen the reverse migration, and there is acute shortage of skilled labor. And also the traditional building construction is not green. Life cycle costs, I will talk about that also. So green is the order of day, sustainability is order of the day, industrialization is order of the day, and we just can't continue to depend on cement, aggregate and water, which are becoming scarce. Also, please believe me that it's all is slow track construction, and we have to wipe it out from our dictionary. We have to introduce fast track construction methodologies or practices. Also, green aspects are totally ignored, and when you all know that India is a signatory to climate change strategies COP21, and we have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, carbon footprint, and all those things. So green and sustainability is also something which need to be incorporated in the inventory which we build in the future. And I green, when we talk about green, there are several definitions given, and what I call green means it has to be resource efficient, energy efficient, eco-friendliness, and health of the occupant. Now there is another new term being introduced, health of the occupant, because in the kind of buildings we construct, we always take it for granted that there will not be any problem to the occupants. But now health is going to play a very important role. And if I need to tell you, if I have to give you some data, let me just tell you, there is a study by UNEP which says that inside here is 4 to 5 times poisonous than the outside here. And it happens because the kind of pigments, varnishes, treatments we are using inside our houses, which emanate volatile organic compound, making the health of the occupant in danger. This is the data from the Cherry and Griha that if we continue to use business as usual, building will consume 40% of energy. Building consume 40% of precious energy source world over, 25% of water, and 40% of resources. And at the same time, building activities contribute 50% to air pollution, 40% to greenhouse gas emissions, 50% of water pollution, and 48% of solid waste. Also, the greenhouse gas emission will double by 2050 if we continue to adopt this business as usual approach. So the challenge which all of us face today is this slide, which I just prepared for you, and I will just read it out for you. How do we stay competitive with volatile raw material prices? All of you know, right now, somebody was talking about steel, and we started project, before pre-COVID time, some lighthouse projects, and just after the COVID, we could start those projects, and the price of steel got increased by more than 60%. So, and we need to be competitive with. So, how do we stay competitive with volatile raw material prices? How can we minimize environmental impact and reach sustainable operation? This was something which was earlier ignored. Nobody was bothered about environment. the kind of waste we are producing, the kind of land and air pollution we are doing. But now this is the challenge which we need to address as a construction industry. Then safety is of paramount importance, as I've been telling you. Now after COVID, through COVID, we have learned a lot. So we need to ensure safety during our construction operations. And the fourth one is really something very good. And somebody was telling that in India we don't have capacities when we talk about new technologies and all. So let me just tell you that it is time to share. It is time that we utilize assets within our value chain. There are a whole lot of companies, their infrastructure, their wherewithals are just lying waste. We need to utilize the available assets with us and share the best practices. Then, whole lot of management, somebody was talking about BIM and all those things. So that kind of management need to be brought in the construction sector as well. And we need to improve site productivity. Earlier the supervisor will come, artisans will come, we will continue to build the wall. It will take 3 days, 4 days, but this is not, we just can't sustain that now. You have to improve the site productivity and drive operational efficiency. Okay. And last but not the least, how do we eliminate waste of materials, poor communication, duplication of efforts, and errors? So these are the few challenges which our industry is facing, and we need to address them very quickly. And so with this, the need of the hour is that we need to use renewable resources for building materials, use of raw materials based on waste products. We have to efficiently utilize conventional materials. I don't say that we can't, we just can't stop. We just stop using cement or these traditional materials. We have to use them optimally. Optimization, or resource efficiency is very important. And you need to bring in industrialized building systems so as to achieve affordability and sustainability. So I will just talk about this industrialized system very quickly. And really sorry for speaking so fast, because earlier I was to speak, but I thought I will make a presentation so that I can at least tell you about the technologies which we are promoting and which we are actually, showcasing at the ground. And why do we require this? You all agree with me? Speed, quality. Quality is something, again, very important and which is always taken for granted. Safety, sustainability, life cycle cost. Let me just, for a second, for 30 seconds, let me dwell on life cycle cost. Friends, all the time we are bothered about initial cost. What would be the cost per square feet? But in order to bring sustainability, we need to talk about life cycle cost, because majority of resources are consumed by the building during its operation. And what about its disposal? Once the service life of building is over, how are you going to dispose, or you just don't think about it? So that is called life cycle cost. It is a summation of initial cost plus operation cost plus disposal cost. And time has come when we need to think of life cycle cost. The building must have minimum life cycle cost. And when we talk about this new technology, functionality is put into question. So thermal efficiency, caustics, and fire resistance also need to be looked into when we talk about new technology. And once we adopt these sustainable practices, we can reduce energy, water use, and greenhouse gas emission, and we can as well reduce waste. This is just a very interesting slide from one of the company who is into manufacturing of buildings. And I just don't want to explain. You can yourself assess that at which level you are. Currently in the world, we are at level 4. So I will start from level 4. Level 4 means the entire building is like plug and play. You understand plug and play? Plug and play is like USB. You put the USB drive in your computer or in your TV and start seeing the movie. So that's called plug and play device. So can we have houses like that? Yes, we can have. And India, there are companies who are dealing with plug and play homes. So you do the entire home with furnishing, with everything set in the factory. All you have to do is you just bring it, put it with the foundation, and put it with and do the connections with water and other services and start using. So that is level 4. And India, at which level we are, you assess yourself. I still feel that we are still at level 0, where we painstakingly collect the material at the site, then we call the laborers, and then we do the form work, put the reinforcement, and then whole lot of things. Okay, and let me tell you that with the concerted effort made by Government of India and others, we have reached up to level 3. In India, there are companies now who are into level 3. In level 3, the entire enclosure, the entire module is made in the factory and then brought to then transported to the site and then put one over other like Lego blocks. Kids playing with the Lego blocks, they put one block over other and create the entire building. So same kind of thing can be done with RCC construction, where the 3D enclosure is made in the factory and then brought to the site and then put one over other like a Lego block to construct a tower. Okay, and another thing which is is the future of the sector is TFMA. So I'm very fascinated by this word. I think most of you might be knowing, but I wanted to tell you loud and clear that in times to come it will be TFM. It's like you go to a tailor and ask them to build a jacket for you. So it's a customized tailoring. Same thing, you're going to have a customized buildings. And there are agencies now, even in India, who will do TFMA. Is as per your project, as per your needs, they will set up the manufacturing facilities, assembly facility, and do the things for you. And friends, also let me tell you that it's no longer you are going to construct buildings, you are going to manufacture buildings. Okay, and so these are some new terms which are knocking at our doorstep, and these are the future. And somebody talked about BIM. So also, yes, I am also very fascinated by BIM now. Few government agencies, they are entering into BIM, and I'm sure in the private sector you have already started using this BIM. And we talk about Singapore. In Singapore, any building which goes to their local body, it has to be it has to be digitized, or it has to be in BIM. If it is not in BIM, they will not pass that building, or they will not give its the certificate. Okay, so the BIM is another thing which is, and BIM, all of you know, it's like creating the virtual model, creating the entire model of the building right from its conception to the completion and to during its operation in the computer, where all the stakeholders can pitch in and give their things. Okay, and
Sure.
this I already covered. If I am encroaching others' time, I will just whenever you say, I will stop. So please let me know the okay. So I will.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. I think we are running short of time, but I'll just request you to summarize.
I will just show you 2 slides where I will just introduce this new technology, okay, and then I will stop. So the end users through these technology interventions are this, which are written here. So with this background, let me tell you the technologies. So I will not go into the details. Otherwise, I have these technologies, the details with me. But with this, Government of India, what they have done is through BMTPC, and we also organized Global Housing Technology Challenge. I think I will ask Hub to speak 2 words on Global Housing Technology Challenge also. So through that Global Housing Technology Challenge, we could shortlist 54 new construction systems, and those construction systems have been, classified into these 6 categories. Here I will do 7 because light gauge and steel structure is one category. In these 6 categories, one is engineered formwork system is nothing but aluminum formwork system. Another one is steel-based formwork system. Third one is drywall construction, which is precast sandwich panel system. And the 4th one is light gauge and steel, cold format hot rolled steel system. And the last one is precast concrete construction system, which is 2D as well as 3D. And with these 6 broad categories, right now in India, the Government of India is executing 6 lighthouse projects in 6 different parts of the country, and where we through these broad categories we are constructing 1,000 houses at each of these places and showcasing these technologies, and we are calling them lighthouse projects. These projects were inaugurated, their groundbreaking ceremony was done by Honorable Prime Minister on 1st January 2021. And I invite all of you to, be part of lighthouse projects. You visit our website, enroll yourself as Technograhi, and get the latest information about LHP's lighthouse projects. You can also visit these lighthouse projects and learn about these technologies, and get yourself educated about these new systems. So I will stop here. The presentation is quite long, but let me stop here.
Thank you, Dr. Sailesh Kumar Agarwal, for the enlightening few aspects that you shared with us. I've made some good notes on it. I now would like to request Shri Karan Agarwal. He's the CEO of Tnt Roofings, to please address the audience here. Karanji, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, very humbled and honored to be on this esteemed panel. It's great to be in this August company and understand what is going on the way forward. And whatever little I know, I'd like to bring to the table and see how we can all collectively make our progress in this direction. I'd like to start by thanking Mr. Ravi Ahuja from L&T since he touched upon steel and the fact that he's moved into a steel structure himself in Mumbai. That gives me a lot of confidence. I'll just share with you why. And also, I'd like to thank Dr. Agarwal for showing us all the numbers. It helps remind us as to what the task ahead is. And also, I like the fact that he also did a reality check towards the end to show where we are at and what needs to be done. Just a little bit about myself and what we do. I represent a company called Tnt Group. We are based in Bangalore and we build steel buildings. Pre-engineered buildings is the terminology we use for our industry. And our buildings are primarily used for warehouse and industrial infrastructure. However, we have done multi-use structures also in the past, in the sense a G+4, G+3 kind of structures also. But honestly speaking, when you see steel being used as a housing platform to solve the housing needs, we are not even touching the surface of it. We do have certain projects which are in every city, which are more of a showcase. They have academic value to it, but no practical solution which can be mass produced or can be given as a solution. And that's where we are at in terms of steel when it comes to housing. Now, I don't want to sound foolish, but I would still want to again tell everybody in the audience there are certain obvious advantages of using steel as a medium. The ease of fabrication, the ease of installation, the possibility of mass production, the consistency, the fact that it is factory built versus being done at site gives a lot of consistency to the job at hand. And also the fact that there is salvage value also. Tomorrow your needs change and then certain buildings have to be dismantled. With a conventional structure, there's a lot of expense incurred even for getting rid of a building, the debris and things like that. But with a steel structure, you can actually get a salvage value out of it. Now, when you start a steel project, there are certain things that is being done at the site. Parallelly, the building can be built in the factory, the major primary members. So there's the speed of construction is also a lot higher. Just to stress the capacity or the capability with steel, I'd like to name a few buildings, steel iconic buildings, which will give us the perspective as to what is possible here. The Twin Towers, which came down in 9/11, were made in steel. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai, again, is a steel building. The Empire State Building, which is a landmark that everybody in New York goes to, is a steel building. The famous or infamous COVID hospital, the 1,000-bed hospital built in Wuhan in 10 days, was a steel building. So I'm just stating these to understand or reassure myself that there is enormous potential, unlimited possibilities, but the willingness has to be there to take on that project and do it, and make sure that there is practicality to it, there is usability to it. What prevents steel structures from going mainstream in housing projects? According to me, there are several challenges that we are facing. Firstly, I would say it starts from the design stage. There's a lot of hesitation even today in terms of the architectural fraternity or the structural engineers fraternity to have the confidence of designing something in steel which is as good as a conventional structure when it comes to usability. Maybe it is to do with the fact that you do lack the skills or the expertise that over the past the Western world has developed. There's also a fact that we can't even name um, any branded or renowned builders who actually launched a project purely made in steel for housing purposes. Any of the leading construction companies haven't gone that far yet. And because of that, there is skepticism in the end user's mind. Until unless people know that it is as good or better than a regular structure, they won't buy into a steel structure as a housing plan. There's also a challenge when it comes to the regular availability of high grade steel, which is required for such structures. So that is something that the steel producers in India will have to address. And I think if there is enough and more demand, they will eventually start making these high grade steel available to manufacturers. And lastly, I would also mention that as a policy, there is no real incentive to the industry to actually move towards steel. That the government or the policy makers are offering to the industry. So other than the fact that yeah, you do need faster structures, you do need uh, saving of time, money, and manpower. There is nothing else on paper which tells you that okay, if you are to build a steel structure, replace conventional structure, or maybe even a hybrid structure, these are the incentives which shall be offered to you. So I think this is what we are at, and this is what I'd like to stop at. And please, I'd love to hear from the other panelists also as to what they feel and how we can go forward from here. Thank you so much.
Hi, am I audible? Karanji? Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Shri Karan Agarwal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Karan Agarwal ji, for the insightful discussion on the pre-engineered steel buildings and your experience for that. May I now request Shri Udhav Podar to kindly address the audience. Shri Udhav Podar is our co-chairman for National Council on Ease of Doing Business with ASSOCHAM, and he is the managing director of Bhumika Group. Shri Udhav Podarji, over to you.
Thank you. Very good afternoon to everyone, and a special thanks to Rajura ji, Assistant Secretary General ASSOCHAM, Ravi Kodalalji, National Council of Real Estate, and Co-Chairman Shri Ravi Ahuja ji, and all other panelists who have taken out this important time, valuable time in this current situation for this important discussion that we're having today. The topic for today's discussion is optimizing housing technologies and innovation, which I think is connected to the broader subject of housing for all and how to make it possible, how to use technology to make that dream a reality. I would like to break the discussion into two parts. One being government policies and the other being technology that can be used to reduce the costs. And I think, like we all know, there are three main factors in any real estate project. One is land, number two is finance, and the third is construction cost. Land is, of course, the main cost for any project. And if the developer has to buy land at market prices, then how can the project eventually become affordable? That's something that we need to understand. So although the government has made a lot of announcements, and some state governments are doing work on it, if we really want to make this housing for all a reality, a lot of work needs to be done by the government to make land available to developers. It could be via various methods, either via allocation, or it could be by increasing the FSI, or cross-subsidizing, affordable housing with commercial FSI, so that eventually affordable housing FSI cost becomes low. The government will have to probably come up with some innovative ideas. The other way also is by augmenting infrastructure development in urban areas. So in areas which are far away from the city, if infrastructure can be augmented, those areas where lands are cheap, development can increase in those places, and that's one way of reducing land cost. We come to the second one, which is finance. Although a few years back, affordable housing was declared as infrastructure, availability of cheap credit to developer communities is far from real. There are some schemes which are making the home buyer they are getting some benefits in credit, but the developer is not getting cheap and easy credit for developing affordable housing. So if the costs are for finance are high, eventually they get passed on to the customer. Also, there is an angle of GST. I think things like cement and steel, all these manufacturers are selling GST paid products. So even though we don't have to pay GST, or there's a lower GST, that input credit is actually getting wasted. So some kind of scheme has to come out on that. Now I'd like to talk on the main subject, which is the construction costs and how to reduce them. I think a lot of panelists have spoken on this subject already, but I think one thing which we all lack as developers is we don't spend time on planning. We are always in a hurry to start our project, but a lot of time probably needs to be spent pre-start of project. Maybe 2, 3 months, 4 months, where if we get into the details in the beginning, we can save a lot of cost. Mostly, there's a lot of changes in every project after construction has started. That's because the planning has not been done upfront. And like Mr. Ahuja was saying, use of BIM technology, that's a new thing that has come and definitely helps in reducing cost. So I think a lot of other things. There's also, of course, my one shuttering, which a lot of developers are now using. But again, you need an economy of scale. If you have economy of scale, a lot of costs can be brought down. But economy of scale, again, is indirectly connected to the first two subjects: availability of large pieces of land which are affordable, and also connected to cheap credit. Because as a developer, if you don't have large tracts of land which are affordable, you will end up doing smaller projects where the costs go up. So if you have large tracts of land where government is made available to you, a lot of planning, better planning can take place. We are talking of examples outside India where these policies are in such a manner that overall possibility is there. As a developer, it might not be possible to look at it in isolation. So I would urge the government and people who are connected with the government to look at it in a wholesome manner. So this is a little bit of whatever I wanted to share, and then we will discuss the question answer round. Thank you. Mr. Ahuja, I am done, so maybe you can take it ahead.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, there's some technical glitch at my end as well, although I did hear you well. Thank you for covering the topic, Shri Udhav Podarji, and your insights on both government policy and technology. May I now request Shri Yash Miglani, he is the Managing Director of Maxon Group, to address the audience, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for inviting me up. As everyone knows that housing is a very important aspect because roti, kapda, makan, these are three components which are very necessary for everyone, and it's the need of the hour. So house is one of the important aspects, sabka important, यही होता है कि घर है तो it's everything is there in their pocket. And it's our Prime Minister's vision also for housing for all by 2021, but it seems difficult as of now, so because of this COVID times which we are facing. So this will be, I believe, stretched up to for next 2-3 years or so. But it's a teamwork actually, because to achieve that kind of vision in life, a lot of support from the government and from different industries are required. It is just not one, the developer can do it single-handedly or the government can do it. It's a teamwork, it has to be done. So if you just talk about our company also Mixin, so we are doing about 12,000 apartments. So we are purely into affordable housing. So 10,000 apartments are being constructed by Myvin technology, where we are able to achieve 3 slabs in a month. That is a good number, but the cartelization of raw material, which is a very, very important part. So we are facing a lot of issues from the cartelization of raw material, which has to be taken care, and some good benefits which has to be passed on by the government in terms of the raw material, where a rate has to be established for the affordable housing, especially because if you see, there's an increase of raw material pricing from last almost 8 to 9 months by 20-25%. The steel, which used to be 40 rupees per kg, now it's standard 57 rupees per kg. Cement, same as cement, and raw material, other raw materials also. A lot of things has to be taken care for the raw material part. If you have to achieve the timelines and where housing for all is a mission, a lot of support has to be given. Plus government support in terms of GST. So earlier we used to have a GST input where the 18% or 15% averagely the cost could be absorbed by the developer for the customers. So now the cost has been increased of the flat. So ultimately it end up increasing the value of home. So that is a very important point where input has to be passed on to us. Plus a lot of more things can be also done where for affordable housing, where an extra FAR can be given where on the timely delivery of the projects. A lot of things can be done where a local level partnership could also be done, where the land is being owned by the government, by the local authorities, and where the construction is being done by the developer. So there are various number of things could be done. So the most important thing which is happening in the market as of now is the Myvin technology, where we are also been doing it. It is working out at a good scale, and it is also feasible also in terms of the pricing for the developer, because there's no brickwork, there's no plaster, there's no pilfages. A lot of savings are being done just because of this technology. So we've been using this technology since last 5 years. So I would advise everyone to go for this technology, and the result and the quality is like very nice. In terms of finances, if you see, Mr. Badar has already spoken about it, but something has to be given at a lucrative rate of interest for the developers, where fast pace of construction and housing is being delivered to the customers. Special criteria or rate of interest of 7 to 8% should be given for the construction finance. Right now, we are dealing at a price of 11 to 12%, which is very high. So a special scheme, a special something arrangement has to be done, where the housing is being focused and a lot of things can be done. Yeah, thank you so much.
Good. Thank you, Yash ji, for the insights, especially on the affordable housing, and it's heartening to learn the 10,000 apartment construction underway. May I now request Shri C.A. Himanshu Goyal ji, who is the partner of Ramanand Goyal and Company, to kindly address the audience.
Thanks, Ravi, our jubilant co-chair of the National Council on Real Estate, Mr. Pradeep Agarwal in his absentia, and thanks to Rajora Sahab for this opportunity to speak in this webinar on a very important area of today's real estate, that is housing technologies and innovations. As already discussed by almost all learned speakers, that in today's scenario, improvising and implementing latest technologies is the need of the hour. Friends, we all understand technology is most important. The best example is this webinar, what we are having right now, which most of us would not have thought back a year or 2 years back. This technology not only is effective, but much more efficient also, especially in today's term of real estate sector, where we really need to adopt certain techniques which shall change the paradigm of the real estate industry. These technologies are not only required for creating better spaces, but also the same need to be disaster resilient, cost effective, energy efficient, environment friendly, easy to implement, speedier, durable, and sustainable in the long run, with specific focus on use of locally available materials and skills. Yes, I'll come to this locally available materials and skills and the role of ASSOCHAM, which I presume can play a big role in bringing these technologies to one, the developer side of the members of ASSOCHAM, and second, the manufacturing members of the association. Friends, in simpler terms, we need proper space management, cost-effective construction, though durable, environment-friendly techniques, quick, innovative, and alternate construction systems, materials, components, and processes, specifically for low and mid-rise housing categories. Mr. Agarwal has very well shared the scope available, and Mr. Miglani was really wonderful in saying that he's making more than 10,000 units. I would like to appraise, see, as a consultant or as a chartered accountant, what I would like to appraise is that there are certain great initiatives taken by the government also in this side. I recollect a concept note issued in March 2020 named as New Urban India, promoting technology and innovation in housing by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Mr. Agarwal also talked about the 54 innovative construction technologies which have been found suitable for construction in the different geoclimatic regions of the country, which have been divided into 6 parts. Friends, the government has laid stress in identifying proven demonstrable technologies from across the globe to construct the housing projects. At the same time, a huge attention is being paid on providing incubation and accelerating support for promoting potential future technologies, domestic, through establishment of affordable, sustainable housing accelerators. These technologies are mostly found to be suitable for high-rise structures and have great potential to be used for affordable housing, which is being taken up as one of the most important assignment by the Ministry of Housing. I'd like to share that all the members who joined today, who are developers or who are into technology or who are manufacturing certain kinds of equipments or raw material, which basically helps in making the buildings lighter or quicker, that you may take help of various institutes across the countries which have been developed, which are producing cost-effective technologies over the years, such as Building Material and Technology Promotion Council, New Delhi, Central Building Research Institute, Roorkee, Structural Engineering Research Center, Chennai, and other institutes such as Center for Application of Science and Technology in Rural Areas, in Bangalore, Center of Science for Villages, Indian Plywood Research Institute, Bangalore Habitat Technology Group, and many more. So when on one side, one of our panelists talks about the government initiatives, the other is sharing the exact technology in terms of what is being implemented, and Uddhavji sharing the the entire panorama of the industry as a true real estate developer. I think if as a chamber, ASSOCHAM can promote or do something where we bring together the innovative technology and material providers with material products and construction techniques that are sustainable and replace energy intensive processes, reduce air, water and land pollution, and minimizes the use of scarce natural resources. That would be great. We can help develop some academic institutions or research and development for our members who get benefit. Either way, we can support certain innovators, startups, entrepreneurs who come up with such technologies. It is most important to develop some indigenous technologies. So we need to support indigenous technology providers who provide complete housing systems using sustainable materials, using traditional local architecture, materials and technique that suit the local climate. Also, we can have something of some sort where we can look into development of certain construction tools and equipment providers, or maybe bringing them to a platform and sharing with the stakeholders who have developed innovative techniques. One thing, friends, I think most of the panelists have covered almost everything about the technology in terms of equipments, construction activities, raw material. But I think apart from creating necessary awareness about the technologies, materials and processes, capacity building of professionals, masons, construction workers and artisans would also be required for use in the field. Other than structural systems, other innovations in building materials, components, tools and equipments like automatic plaster machines, bar bending machines, many such kind of developments. I think if a bit stress is laid on the manpower and their skill development, considering these technologies, that would also be a good idea on the part of developing a sustainable and competitive real estate market with the technologies. So this is all, Raviji, from my side. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Sure. Thank you, Himanshuji Goyalji, for the enlightening address. May I now request architect Indranil Chandrateji. He is the director of My Plus Design Consultants and also Swayam, my apologies, Swayam Redevelopment Consultants LLP. Indranil ji, over to you to address the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Raviji. And also, I appreciate ASSOCHAM for inviting me for this webinar. Also, can I share my screen? Is it possible?
Haji, Kaushal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it visible?
Yes, very much.
Okay. So once we start with optimizing housing technology for affordable housing, now again, there is affordable is very ambiguous word. Affordable to whom? Affordable to developer? Affordable to buyer, end user? So there are a lot of social economic factors which we need to look at when we really look at optimizing housing needs of India. When Mr. Shailendra Agarwal had already mentioned, we are going to be almost 90% urbanized society once we are in 2050. We need to really look at how we reduce our cost and do our development really fast. You know, the primary for most important factor of the development is you have to look at the land cost. So land cost is very important to looking at the overall reduction in costing. So in for example, we work in Mumbai where we have been working for last 20 years, and also we have a different vertical where we are doing self redevelopment of a lot of societies. Now that is where we are fixed in terms of we are taking care of the development with the help of the crowdfunding. So when we look at the land in urban areas, there are certain lands which are under government lands which are required to be redeveloped. And in Mumbai, there are a lot of good facilities in terms of slum redevelopment scheme, where the government is giving more FSI, and that is where it is becoming feasible in Mumbai for affordable housing, to give houses for lower income group or economically weaker sections. Something like that we should develop in other cities or other towns as well. However, at the same time, there are few members like Mr. Uddhav Bodar, who had said that there is importance of doing ease of doing business, as well as cost of money needs to be uh, worked on. So innovative ways we need to come up, either with the financial institutes, with the banks, how we can come up with the innovative use, so innovative methods to really finance our upcoming development. PMIY had a good scheme. Mr. Agrawal had already spoken about it. They were giving good incentives for developers as well as for the buyers. So that is something good. Government of India and RBI should look at these modules or this kind of product where they can mobilize fund in different manner as well as give some benefits to the developers. Today we are facing major problems in terms of currently GST and taxing, where affordable is becoming really indirect GST is being paid, and that's what Mr. Uddhav also said, that is not taken care, or that credit is not generated with the developer. At the end, the cost of the project goes up. After looking at this, yes, most importantly, work pre-construction stage is very important when you look at coming up with a project, because work is not completed unless we really visualize it. Being an architect, we know our construction, our house is basically a reflection of our lifestyle. So when we look at this, your housing will be based on your requirement of your own lifestyle. So we must sit on the pre-designing, pre-construction stage, where we have to put in a lot of efforts in innovating design, innovating new materials, planning new materials at planning stage, accepting new materials in planning stage, accepting new technologies at planning stage is also very important. Mr. Karan has very importantly put up a point that steel structure is not been explored really, which is one of the way where you can really speed up our execution part. Moving on, we should look at, yes, different ways of executing speed of construction, which can be improved by different ways of executing, which Mr. Shailendra Agarwal have already put in certain points, but there are few points I would like to add on, like for tunnel technology and for even 3D volumetric concrete construction technologies are very which requires initial cost inputs. So where it is very important that since India requires a lot of housing, we require large construction houses to also collaborate with each other. Today, after COVID, we have seen there is so much of collaboration happening with government and private agencies, private doctors, private clinics, private this thing. Similar way, after COVID, things are really going to change. We don't know how much infrastructure we will really have to improve and uplift our overall mindset of doing our work. So this is very important that these factors need to be looked at, how we can really collaborate in terms of even large houses, large construction houses need to work openly in collaborating with your factory output as well as your information and your know-how. Yes, there are a lot of other technologies of precast, pre-construction, prefabricated wall panels, prefab cast in situ panels. Those things will have to be implemented to speed up our construction and complete our construction activity within limited time. So at the end, what we look at it, basically land and FSI cost should be reduced in terms of by either giving higher FSI or allowing free of cost land to developer. Better infrastructure need to be developed for project site, and that helps motivate buyers to invest or buy at even far off locations from even cities, towns. Financial institute should come up with some kind of innovative financing product, where Mr. Yash has already suggested finance rate which is already at 14-15%, which is very high, which we should look at how we can reduce it to 7-6-7-5%. Availability of lower rates will help contractors, developers to do the business faster. Ease of doing business is really important. Today we know how many approvals or we have to take it before we really hit site, before we really go to site and start execution. These many approvals need to be reduced, where, like Mr. Himanshu said, yes, it is important at this point of time. We need to look at how we can get government bodies to become more and more tech savvy and understand it on technology rather than on paper activity. So this is most important if we really want to speed up our housing and all complete development. Knowledge resources sharing, collaborating by vendors and contractors, which I have already put in. Import technologies which can be imported now from other countries, which will help us move faster. I think these are the points I wanted to put up. Thank you.
Thank you, Indranil Chandrateji for your insights. May I now request our last speaker, last but not the least, we are looking forward to you, sir, Professor Dr. P.S.N. Rao. He's the Director, School of Planning and Architecture. Thank you for being with us. Over to you, sir.
Sir, please
Sir, it
unmute
seems you-
yourself.
Yeah, you may be on mute, sir.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Good evening, gentlemen. How much time do I have? Say about 10-15 minutes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can do with 10 minutes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. I have a brief presentation. Can I be permitted to present it?
Of course, Kaushal.
Yes, sir. Anupji, please share the right.
So I hope the screen is visible. Is the screen visible?
Not now,
No,
sir.
sir.
Not yet.
Is it visible now?
Not yet, at least.
No,
at
sir,
my
not
end.
yet.
Kaushal, can you see if sir needs some help to bring the screen up? And Professor Saab, you can take more than 10 minutes, sir.
Yeah, that is fine. But
We'll just help you with the screen.
yeah, please.
Is the sharing screen at Professor Saab's side? Then he can go into the.
Has the screen share been given?
सर अभी स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं हो रहा है. मैं अगेन आपको राइट्स दे रहा हूँ सर. आप शो माई
Okay.
स्क्रीन पे आपके पास जो पॉपअप आएगा ना सर, उस पे क्लिक कीजिएगा सर।
Okay.
राइट, अभी आपके पास पॉपअप आया होगा सर।
Yeah, I've clicked on
Yes.
it.
Okay.
So I've opened the presentation. Can you see the presentation?
No, sir, we can't see.
Can you see the PPT?
No, sir, not yet.
कौशल एक और बार सर को दीजिए वो rights, so if he gets the window he'll click it, otherwise then we'll request sir to otherwise start.
Can you see now?
So did you get a window to accept screen share?
Yeah. I've accepted and I've opened the presentation also.
Oh, okay. So some technology issue I am suspecting. Kaushal?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm calling sir, but sir is not taking the call.
You're calling Professor Saab, is it?
Yes,
Professor
sir.
Rao,
Yes,
I
sir.
think they're trying to call you on your cell to help you.
Okay.
कौशल आप सर से बात कर लीजिए, otherwise sir can start please.
Sir,
I'm calling.
actually the number is busy. Sir, I'm
I've shared it now. Is it visible?
Professor साहब आप you can start, जिसको दिख रहा है वो
Hello.
दिखे.
हाँ जी. अच्छा, तो आपका ईमेल आईडी क्या है? उसमें वो फॉरवर्ड करना अभी मुश्किल है, अभी नहीं हो पाएगा. I'll speak without the presentation. Okay.
Sir, sorry for the
Okay.
inconvenience.
So,
Sorry for the inconvenience, and thank you, sir, for your wisdom. Please continue, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So actually, when we started, we tried it out and it did work. But when you actually want it now, it's not working. But anyway, that's fine. So these are the glitches with technology. While we want to depend more on technology, there are issues. So
Yes.
yeah. So thank you, ASSOCHAM, for having me here. So basically, I wanted to talk about something called Navriti, Navrith. which essentially is an acronym that we have devised recently. New, affordable, innovative, validated technologies for housing in India. Basically, what we are trying to do is that, as has been said by Mr. Sailesh, Dr. Sailesh, right in the beginning, we are actually working together in collaboration with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. As you are well aware, in the past, we've been looking at these traditional materials and traditional technologies. So essentially, that can be described as something which is akin to an a la carte menu kind of a situation, wherein you pick and choose various things that you want, and then you construct your house. But today, that is actually a luxury. You can't really afford to do that. If you go to the US today, it is almost impossible, or it is very, very expensive for you to do that. Today, the socio-economics of the country, of our society, has changed so much that the husband is working, the wife is also working, the children are working or they're studying. So we don't have so much amount of time to sit and supervise and build our own house. Number one. Number two, as has been said by architect Indranil and others, land is a very important area, and there isn't so much of land available. So therefore, the luxury of living in your own little villa is just not possible, or too expensive, and therefore you need to actually live in multi-family housing, multi-story apartments, cooperative group housing societies, or what have you. So which means that you can't build for everybody. Somebody has to build for us. So who is that somebody? That somebody is basically the developer. So when a developer has to build for a large number of persons, then the question of technology comes into being, because you have to build 500 flats, 800 flats, 1000 flats. So when you need to build in large numbers, then the question of quality comes into being, the question of technology comes into being, the question of mass production comes into being, and that is where we are in today. India is about 31% urban population, but in terms of actual numbers, it is much more in terms of the actual numbers. So in the next couple of decades, probably India will be 50% urban. So when you say 50% urban, there again, the sheer numbers of people will be a very huge number. So therefore, the housing demand is going to be in several millions, which means that you will have to essentially depend upon mass produced housing products. Not only mass producing housing products, but also mass produced commercial spaces or any other spaces. So all built spaces, the built environment is going to be a mass produced built environment. So the furniture you place in that, the color that you paint the interiors with, these are small areas where you could do some amount of personalization, which we all obviously want to do. So therefore, today technology has come into sharp focus. Technology has come into the forefront. Technology has become extremely important. And more than anything else, we need the kind of technology where we need to work very, very, very fast, because we are living in a fast food age. We don't have so much amount of time to wait for years together for somebody to give me my apartment. And today in almost all the states, you have the RERA regulation. So developers don't have the luxury of taking money from you and sitting on it for years together and hope that nothing will just happen and then you will just keep sitting tight. Those days are gone. So developers are under pressure to deliver fast. Individual families are also under pressure to close the deals as quickly as possible. And you have to invariably also leverage, you have to take funds. So any delays, cost overruns, project overruns, time overruns would mean a financial implication, which is quite serious. So for all these reasons, today, and of course our aspiration the aspiration of every family to have a high quality, modern, technologically advanced physical environment. So for all these, we are looking at technologies. So now, where do we bring in those technologies? Are these technologies available in our country? Certainly no. So therefore, a couple of years back, at the Government of India, we initiated what was called the Global Housing Technology Challenge. And as Dr. Sailesh mentioned right at the beginning, this Global Housing Technology Challenge, we were all a part of that challenge. And we invited entrepreneurs, developers, businessmen from all over the country. There were as many as 54 of them who had come on board. And then we had shortlisted, we had basketed them into about 6 or 7 areas. And we've actually documented the whole thing. There's a document that's available on modern technologies. This document is available, you can get it. So what are these technologies? Now, how do we transfer that technology from various parts of the world into our country? The only way to do it is to actually ask these fellows to come and put it on the ground, so that you and me, all of us, can go and see and believe that yes, this is all going to happen. So for that, 6 state governments have volunteered to provide adequate land, and approximately 1,000 residential apartments in each of these 6 cities are being constructed. At the moment, the construction is already started. The work was inaugurated last year by the Honorable Prime Minister, and by the end of the year, you need to construct. Each developer is supposed to construct 1,000 apartments in 365 days. So for the developers who are sitting on this panel, and for the others who are listening to us, 1,000 apartments in 1 year, can you do it in the current time and age, with whatever wherewithal that you have at your disposal today? I think the answer is a clear no. But these 6 projects, which are termed as lighthouse projects, because they are going to show us the light for the way forward. They're going to produce about 1,000 apartments in 1 year, all these in 6 different cities, and this is already started, and one can go and see, and the costing is going to be comparable, and time is actually money today. If you put in certain amount of money, and if you're getting an output at the end of the year, then that's something very great, because you're saving on house rent, you're saving on house rent allowance, HRA. So many kinds of things are also there which go into this whole thing. So for these to happen, we actually need what is called a rounded ecosystem. And I think some of the speakers earlier have also mentioned this, that you need to train the masons, you need to train the supervisors, you need to train the engineers, you need to train the architects, you need to train virtually everybody in the Indian construction industry today to use these new technologies. So for that, we are offering a certificate program. We have already done 2 batches. The 3rd batch is starting tomorrow, where again Dr. Sailesh will be talking, I will be talking, and there will be several other professors and others who will also be talking. And we are offering these courses, and we are giving an exposure to the construction industry professionals about how you can do all of this, how can you make it happen. And we the whole idea is, and each batch, let me remind you that each batch that we do online, there are as many as 100 or 120 people sitting together, and this is the 3rd batch that we have, and there are so many, a few thousands of people who are in the waiting list. They all want to come and learn how to do this with these new technologies. So this is what we are calling as Navriti, new, affordable, validated, innovative technologies for Indian housing is Navriti. And once this happens, then this is going to revolutionize, because you will have housing which is not only fast produced, because it is factory made, you will have a better quality control. Because the human intervention is limited, you will have better quality control. You will have better materials, better finishing. Everything is planned in advance. So, then there is also a use of a lot of these waste materials. There are issues of water consumption, there are issues of sand, there are issues of thermal comfort inside the building, there are issues of acoustics. All these are scientifically measured, calibrated, taken care of in these technologies, so that at the end of the day, when you get into the apartment, you can be sure that just as when you purchase your mobile phone, there are specifications, everything is written there, and every other mobile phone is having the same quality, the same build quality is there, the same specifications are there. That will start beginning to happen, and once that happens, then the whole ecosystem of the business of construction of housing in this country is going to go in for a paradigm change. And for that, the industry has to gear up, commerce has to gear up, the chambers have to gear up, and the professionals themselves have to gear up. Because when we studied our architecture and engineering and urban planning and so on, things were very different. But today the world has changed, and therefore we need to unlearn, and we need to learn new things and new ways of doing it. Of course, in addition to this, I fully endorse Mr. Yash Miglani's points about GST, about maybe even income tax concessions. Of course, affordable housing has been given the status of an industry, but many more, even stamp duty concessions. All of these have to be given by the government at the center, at the state, at the local level. Fast-paced approvals, single window clearances, ease of doing business. Ease of doing business for municipal approvals initially started only with Delhi and with Mumbai. These are the only two cities. But then now we have been actively involved in preparing a model building bylaws, and these model building bylaws are circulated to all states. So rationalization of the building bylaws, rationalization of the building plan permission approval process, using computerization and so on and so forth, cutting down a lot of red tape, which makes people run from pillar to post. So all of this needs to be addressed, and certainly ASSOCHAM is the place where these need to be discussed, deliberated, and represented to the governments that may be at whatever level, local, municipal, state, center, so that the industry can be geared to meeting the challenges, so that whatever minimal resources that we have, we need to optimize those resources, so that ultimately at the end of the day, climate change and environment and sustainable development becomes very important. So on this note, I would like to thank ASSOCHAM for having all of us here, and we've all made our points in our own ways of speaking and putting it forward. My apologies, the presentation has not shown up, but nevertheless, I've tried to capture the essence and put it. Maybe since I being the last speaker, it is also a disadvantage, because most of the things have been said perhaps by the others, but then probably my job also is to summarize perhaps. So I hope I've been able to do that job of summarizing and giving you the essence of this 1.5 hour deliberation. So over to Mr. Rajora. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Saab, and our apologies for the technology glitch. And like you joked that in a session of technology, such things do happen. Thank you for that, for being a sport. Very quickly, sir, I know we've run out of time, complete time here, but your session was very enlightening, and thank you for summarizing. So that makes my task easy on conclusive remarks. But very quickly, I'll just bring up few thoughts which Dr. Sailesh Kumar Agarwal ji mentioned about and you reiterated about the Lighthouse project, very enlightening things, and the green aspects that were brought up, including the Pradhan Mantri Yojana of 11.2 million houses as a target. Karan Agarwal ji, CEO of Tnt Roofings, took us through some of the challenges on design and spoke about the government policies that can do much more for such technology. Shri Udhav Podar ji mentioned about the land, the financial cost and the construction cost, the GST aspect, and My One shuttering, and the importance of planning. Yash Miglani ji took us through the interest rate regime and the cartelization on the raw material prices, how that's playing havoc, besides his target of 10,000 apartments which are being produced. CA Himanshu ji, Goyal ji mentioned about the local availability of the materials and capacity buildings of the workers and skilled labor, which was reiterated and summarized by Professor P.S.N. Rao ji. Dr. Indranil Chandrate ji mentioned about innovative financing methods, bringing land and FSI costs down and having speed of construction. And he spoke particularly about the tunnel technology. And finally, last but not the least, sir, may I highlight Professor Dr. P.S.N. Rao's fantastic oration and summary and explanation of the Navriti to us and how that is going to impact going forward, and given us the importance. He's actually elaborated on the importance of technology and the support this is required for the rapid urbanization and the whole evolution. Thank you, sir, for taking us through. I'm afraid we don't have much time for questions, but should the audience have questions, please, you can put them on chat. We will personally revert to you while we've lost enough time. Kaushal, if there is any pressing question which has already come from audience, I request you to bring it up. Otherwise, we will defer it and get back to the audience.
No, sir, right now we haven't received the questions.
Okay, I'm sorry to the audience for some of the technology glitches. At the same time, I think it was a very interesting and informative session. We will await your questions, if any, and we will revert to you, which I will give a personal commitment here. Rajora Saab, thank you. And I took over the conclusive remarks, sir. We've run out of time. Thank you, audience. Thank you, participants. And thank you, the esteemed panelists, respected panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ravi Ahuja. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Raviji. Thank you, ASSOCHAM team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ravi.